What's up, traders? In today's video, I'm going to be performing a market forecast on Nasdaq using smart money concepts. So stay tuned. Now, the last time we performed a market forecast on Nasdaq was about 2 weeks ago on the 21st of May. If you haven't already, I do highly suggest that you go over and you watch this video because I do take a little bit more time in explaining the weekly structure in that particular video. I'm just going to kind of skip through it on this one. Just for context, I am recording this video on the 12th of June 2022. The time has just gone 12:27 p.m. local time. All right. Now, before we dive into today's market forecast video, I just quickly want to have a little discussion with you guys. In some of my previous videos, one or two of you have asked me to use a lighter background. So in the comment section of this video, I'm going to have two pinned comments. One for this particular lighter color theme that I have created over the past weekend, and then another comment for the darker theme that I have been using for the longest time. And what I want you guys to do is I just want you to vote for the theme that you prefer. All right, whichever comment gets the most likes is going to be the theme that I'm going to use moving forward. Right, so we have this particular dark theme which I have been using, and then this lighter theme which I have recently created. Okay, for me personally, I cannot work on a white background. It's extremely straining on my eyes. I don't like how bright it is, but I would like us to find a little bit of a middle ground because I do want you guys to feel comfortable watching the videos, and I do want you to be able to see the information that I am giving to you. Right, so take a few seconds and just like whichever theme you want. All right, so for this video, we're going to be using the lighter theme just to give you guys an overall feel of it and how we do it. So diving into our market forecast now, we're obviously going to start off on the weekly. And if we just use our bar replay tool, you'll see that the video that we posted 2 weeks ago, price action was essentially here. We had just come in to react with this weekly, and we were essentially waiting to see whether or not we would get a reaction from here or whether price action would push down to this particular target at 10,676.2 or potentially lower this target down here. Right, what we can see is if we obviously play price forward, we can see that we did have that nice strong initial bullish reaction off of this weekly demand zone, and then after that reaction, price action has now rolled over. Okay, so what are we seeing on Nasdaq right now? If we just get rid of our bar replay tool, we can clearly see that we are in this bearish trend. Okay, we know that we are bearish because we've had a recent break of structure to the downside, and that means that we have this particular weekly leg that we're playing within. Okay, this is obviously our equilibrium of this recent leg, and we can see that we are currently trading within discount pricing of this particular weekly leg. Okay, now from here, this particular bullish reaction on the lower time frames would have confirmed this particular low for us. So after this particular low has now been confirmed, we can comfortably say that this is a strong high for us because it did its job. It has created a new lower low, and we can anticipate this particular low to be taken out at some point. Is it going to occur right away? We don't know. We might see some bullish corrections within here before price action rolls over, but we know that and we understand that this is now our week low. All right, so from that weekly, we're going to drop down to our daily time frame now, and we're going to focus on what price action has been doing more recently. All right, so if we just bring back our replay tool again, just to give you guys a little bit of context, you can see that this particular candle is the 20th of May, and then this was the open, so Monday. So at the time of recording that video from 2 weeks ago, price action was obviously interacting here. We had this candle and we had this particular mitigation of the weekly demand. So if we remove that bar replay tool again, what we can see is that after that particular mitigation, price action pushed up, and it gave us this really nice, really clean daily change of character, which essentially started here, and then that initial break to the downside was then followed by this break to the upside. Okay, and this daily chalk was what helped us confirm our swing point down here. All right, this daily chalk confirmed this level for us. So obviously after this particular daily change of character, we can see that price action gave us a new high. Now this particular high would have been a higher high on the lower time frame, on your 4 hour, on your 1 hour. And whenever you have a daily change of character, you can anticipate a pullback to occur, because remember, from a daily point of view, we have our break of structure here, which means that our daily leg that we're playing within is exactly the same as the weekly leg. So we do have those two time frames in alignment. All right, we have our daily change of character, which occurs in here, which obviously confirms this particular low for us. Now, after this particular low has been formed, from a daily point of view, we can obviously anticipate a bullish correction, right, from this particular low. Because remember, overall, if I just zoom out again, remember, overall, we are currently still bearish on the pair. We are only trading within discount prices of this leg right now. And all that means is that these two areas that we identified from that previous video would be high probability areas for us to potentially look for bearish continuations from. Okay, so in here on our lower time frames, this particular daily change of character would have been a full on 4 hour, 1 hour break of structure, and that would have given us a new higher point. Okay, now after the formation of this higher point, what can you anticipate? You can anticipate obviously a pullback, and that's exactly what price action did. And where did price action pull back to? Price action pulled back to this particular daily demand zone in here that we can see price has now, as recently as this past week on Friday, price action has now come into it and has mitigated that. All right, so purely from a daily point of view, what can we anticipate to happen next? Well, we're seeing the mitigation of this daily. We could see this particular daily hold and give us essentially a continuation. Okay, essentially give us a continuation of this daily pullback, of this daily bullish pullback that we are anticipating, because we are currently trading within that weekly and that daily discount pricing zone. Okay, so really nice daily demand zone that we're looking at here. What we want to see is, we want to see this particular high go. Now the reason I say we want to see this particular high go is because if we just quickly drop down to that 4 hour chart, we can see that essentially we've obviously had this really strong break of structure. So from a 4 hour point of view, all right, we have this confirmed lower low breaking structure to the upside, giving us this particular high in there. Okay, and now what we want to see is, we want to see this particular low go. Why? Because this is now a strong low. It did its job, it broke structure. This one, if price action holds within this demand zone, this particular high will now become a weak high, and then we can anticipate price action to take this particular high. All right, it's very important that you are aware of what each of your time frames are doing, and you want to make sure that you're not caught up trying to trade against what your overall trend is. Right, me personally, like I have said in previous videos, I like to be aware of what my daily is doing, but then I want to follow my 4 hour rather closely when looking for those intraday opportunities. All right, so from the daily, we can see this nice demand zone. If this particular area holds, we're looking for pushes to the upside. If we now drop down to our 4 hour, the very first thing we want to do is we want to define our 4 hour range. We want to define exactly what it is that we're trading within. So from a 4 hour swing structure point of view, I think I'll be very comfortable in saying that my 4 hour is in alignment with my daily. So what that means is that this is a 4 hour break of structure as well in terms of swing structure, meaning that that weekly leg that we're talking about, that daily leg, and now my 4 hour leg are all in alignment. We're all playing within the same leg here. obviously, all right, obviously from a 4-hour point of view, this particular bearish push to the downside will have structure that is formed, and you can clearly see that you have lower lows and lower highs formed. And you can, from a 4-hour point of view, if I just quickly mark, if I give it a different color, you could mark out your 4-hour structure like this, your external structure within this particular bearish push to the downside. The reason I would not want to necessarily mark out these particular swing points from on a 4-hour chart is because we have this level of liquidity in here that sits below this demand zone or below this supply zone, and this could easily be taken out. And then also at this particular swing point, we have this liquidity that sits below this supply zone, and that could easily be taken out as well. So in terms of the push to the downside, these two structure points are susceptible. They can be taken out because they sit at liquidity. They sit below really strong daily supply zones. And this particular 4-hour high has already been taken by this daily character, or by this daily change of character. So that is why I would much rather mark out my 4-hour swing as from here to here, and then I just completely label all these structure points in here as internal 1-hour 15-minute structure. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So from a 4-hour swing structure point of view, we've got swing high to swing low, which means that we're playing within this range, which is in alignment with our daily and with our weekly. And then if we zoom in now to more recent price action, remember that this is that daily swing that has been confirmed within that weekly demand zone. What we can also then see is that we also had a 4-hour change of character that occurred in here. Now remember, as I always say, your time frames or your market structure and price action is fractal. And what that means is that your changes in trend will always occur first on your lower time frames before they occur on your higher time frames. And you can see that in here, because first of all, you had a 4-hour change of character which occurred here, and that 4-hour change of character was then followed by a daily change of character, right? So we have this 4-hour change of character, obviously confirming that 4-hour swing point. And then after this particular swing point has been confirmed, we see a demand chain that was forming in here. Now you'll see and you'll notice that I am marking out the wicks here as demand. So let's just rein this one back in because we had this mitigation. And this is I would say more of an intermediate to an advanced way of identifying supply and demand zones. And if I just explain it very quickly to you, within this particular 4-hour wick, we have a lot of 15-minute and 5-minute, even 1-minute candles. We have a lot of structure on our lower time frames contained within just this one wick. And within this one wick, you will have valid demand zones that were forming as price action pushes down into here, confirming this particular low to shift from a bearish state to a bullish state. All right, so once you mark out these wicks as supply and demand zones, you know that within that wick you could possibly find some refined order blocks on your lower time frames that you could potentially see reactions from. All right, but they are significant when they chain together and mitigate one after the other in this manner on your higher time frames, right? Because it's just an extra confirmation, an extra confluence showing you that indeed we are seeing that demand is a little bit in demand is in control here, right? So we have a nice demand chain in here. I guess the final demand zone that you can map out, which sits in and around this daily demand that we might mapped out, would be this particular 4-hour, which price action has now come into. All right, so we have our swing point confirmed. We have the 4-hour change of character, which obviously formed after this particular demand chain formed. And then we have an explosion of price. You can see a lot of bullish volume coming into price, giving us this daily change of character. And then just one last demand zone that I want to map out would be this one in here, which we can see is also valid as we define it in our rules. All right, so what price action then did is, obviously from that 4 hour, it pushed up. We had breaks of structure to the upside. So at this point we were obviously bullish, okay, and then we created this high. Now after creating this particular level, and there was a really nice trade that was caught in here, I might do a trade breakdown of what exactly happened within this bit of price action. But essentially, after this daily change of character occurred, which is a 4 hour break of structure, right, we can then start to anticipate a pullback. Right now, there was a prolonged period of consolidation in here, and what price action actually did was, price action actually formed a nice little shelf of liquidity down here. Okay, now all this liquidity was an early indication that this could be a nice area for us to potentially continue with that underlying bullish pullback that we're talking about on the daily. All right, but if we bring on our fib tool, we'll see that this particular level, okay, sat just above our 50%. So in terms of this particular swing point, so if we mark out and denote this as a 4 hour swing as well, let's get rid of this one, you'll see that within this particular 4 hour swing, this demand zone sat just above our 50%, and that meant obviously that we were sitting within premium pricing, and it was not that high probability for us to look for longs from, even though we had really nice liquidity that built. Okay, so price action ends up violating here, and it ends up pushing down lower. So where we are now, we can see that price action is mitigating this daily demand. We have already seen a mitigation and a reaction from this 4 hour zone. Obviously this 4 hour zone sits within premium pricing and would be a nice high value area for us to look for potential buys from to continue with that daily pullback, as I said. But we need to be very aware of the fact that there is also this particular 4 hour level that sits in here. Okay, so a couple of things that we could see play out on Nasdaq going into the remainder of June and going into Q3 is we could see price action potentially give us a reaction from this daily, and the type of reaction we see from this daily will be key, because what we could see is we could see a small reaction before a bearish continuation, or we could see a reaction that pushes price higher to take out these highs, as we said. Okay, so very simple. We need to make sure that we are reacting to what the market is telling us, and we need to make sure that we don't marry ourselves to any one outcome. Okay, we need to make sure that we trade what is in front of us, because what we do see is at the failure of this demand zone, what price action did is price action printed and gave us a really nice 4 hour supply area. Okay, now if all of this were to break down, this then becomes an interesting area to look for continuations from. But if this were to hold, we could see price action pull back towards here, all right, and give us a little bit of a reaction before pushing higher. All right, so if you have marked out this area, you don't want to just blindly put on a sell limit order and then look to shoot for the stars all the way to the bottom. You want to make sure that you are reacting to what the market is saying. So very interesting price action on Nasdaq. It's going to be interesting to see how price action plays out. If you guys enjoyed this quick little market forecast, do make sure that you give it a like. Also, don't forget to vote down below which particular layout or which particular theme you prefer, because the one that gets the most votes, I'll probably give it like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Let's say that we'll give it about a week, and whichever comment gets the most likes is going to be the theme that we're going to go for the rest of the videos in the future. So make sure that you like whichever one you prefer, and then subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future content. I appreciate you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.